You can't change someone by trying to love them harder. That goes into people pleasing. All right. And stop trying to change people. They're not socks. They're not underwear. Just because you want something, you have an idea of what you want it to be. Now we're going into expectations, assumptions. We're going into a bunch of that. And you got to really check yourself on it. Because, and let's also be clear too, you think that you're doing it like you're loving someone, you're showing them what your value is, you're showing them how much you care, you're doing all of that. But make sure that you're not doing so with a level of manipulation, that if I show them more love, whatever this love version is in your head, this is how I would want to be loved. This is what I would see would be more love, right? And if you're in that space and you're like, let me do this so they see my value, that is manipulation. Now, that might not be a covert manipulation that you're like, ooh, I'm going to manipulate someone. But there is manipulation that takes place there, right? Because if you are kind to someone or you expect something from someone because you were kind to them, that is a level of a transactional relationship. That is not, we're not doing that. That is not okay. And so this goes back to the acceptance. This goes back to accepting things as they are. You have got to stop trying to put that person into the scenario how you want them to be, but yet in the same token, you don't realize that they have their own free will. You know it logically, but you're like, yeah, they have their own free will. I just want them to do this. Well, that's the opposite of having free will. That goes into your control. All right. Your insecurities, your level of, and there's a level of entitlement that comes with that, by the way. Yeah, there's a level of entitlement. You feel entitled that somebody does this because you did this. No, we're not doing that. And that's why you have to check what your expectations are, because that's going to hurt you every single time, right? But just because you go in harder, you love more, right? Be very careful about this love word that you keep throwing around too, because codependency is not love. Attachment is not love. People pleasing is not love. None of those are love, right? Because true love, true love, and I don't just mean from like a relationship, like a intimate relationship perspective, even friendship, siblings, anything, any interpersonal any interpersonal relationship is a relationship. But so if you love someone in that way, then you accept and appreciate that they have different values and desires than what you do. And they have that right. They don't have to live accordingly to what you have planned. And if you're struggling to get through that and get into that acceptance phase, you're going to have to go deeper and make sure that you're doing your work. You want to be really quick to point fingers to everybody else. Can you believe this person does this? Can you believe this person does that? You're pointing fingers, but you're not checking yourself. So until you check yourself and realize, what is it? Why can't I not accept that this is how this person is, or this is how this situation is? Well, it's going to become a problem. But just because you go all in doesn't mean that, I'm loving so much harder. Now you go into the manipulation like, well, everybody doesn't have my heart. Don't do that. Do not do that, because everybody loves differently. That doesn't mean that you love more. That means you might have a level of more codependency. You might have a level of more attachment. This is why you have to be very, very careful. You can't just take a person and put them into this role in your life. They're not a pawn in your game, right? So I have this little frog from where I get my car. And he lives in my little window, right? But you can't just grab somebody and be like, okay, you're mine now, right? You're mine. I want you to do this. So this is where you're going to live. Nope, I want you to do this. No, I don't want you to have your own mind. I want you to have this. Yeah. Oh, you say you want them to have their own mind. You say that you appreciate their boundaries. You don't, because if you're talking crap about it, or if you are when I say talking crap, even in your own mind, if you're talking crap about it, much less talking to somebody else, you talk to somebody else about it. Now we're going into definitely a little bit of narcissism there. Oh, do you see? Do you understand? No, we're not going to do that. And it really only harms you. And it really only makes you look some kind of way, because if you start talking badly about someone based on the idea that you thought that they should do, based on an expectation in which you had, and it didn't work accordingly, and you start talking to somebody else about it, that has everything to do with you, not the person in which you're speaking about. So just because you go in all in and you go like, oh my gosh, I'm so like, I love this person, I want this relationship to work, that's great. But make sure that you're communicating, because without communication, this is a one-sided relationship. Don't assume you know the relationship that somebody else wants from you. And just because somebody is nice to you doesn't mean that all of a sudden they need to build this big relationship. Right? Somebody hollers at you and says, hey, oh, you look really cute. Let me hold the door for you. That doesn't mean that they're ready to have a relationship with you. In friendship, somebody does something nice for you. It doesn't mean all of a sudden we're super ultra best friends. Right? It's an expectation that you need to check yourself on. But instead of judging yourself and going, oh my God, am I being manipulative? Okay, cool. Awareness, amazing. Compassion, even better. Got to have compassion to that, because in that compassionate state is where you're going to find you'll be able to view it and find this sense of like, oh, okay, let me observe this without attaching, oh, I'm terrible, I'm sabotaging and all this stuff. Yeah, that's cool because you're aware of it and you know what not to do, so to speak. But then you have to put that into action, right? You have to put that into action, right? Like, again, and if somebody does something nice for you, let's say somebody is doing a favor for you. Let's say they said, okay, I'm going to do this favor for you, right? You don't get to decide how many more favors you want from that. I'm doing you a favor. This doesn't mean that, oh, this person, she did this one favor for me, I'm assuming she's going to do all of these other favors. You can't go into that, right? Because it's going to get you in trouble every single time, because again, you're attaching that expectation. I actually have a podcast coming out on expectations and assumptions and standards and all that stuff. It's like all three of those things together. But it's important that you understand that just because you show up more, just because you do all of that more, doesn't mean that that person's going to change. It doesn't mean, again, that goes into manipulation. I'm going to love them more, so they will love me back. That is manipulation. It doesn't have to be malevolent like this, I'm going to manipulate, but it is a level of manipulation. And this is the part that you got to get clear on. And you have to say, wow, this person's an individual. They might not respond the way I would. That's okay. I can love them. And sometimes you got to love people from afar. Sometimes you got to be like, I love you, but I can't, this isn't my jam. Like, this isn't working for me. And that's okay. You don't even have to explain that to anybody. Nobody needs to know your why. Nope. Doesn't have to happen. But stop trying to love more. Stop trying to change who you are to make someone else change. If they want to change, they will. You can't make somebody change. And honestly, you don't want them to. I know you think you do, right? Because that's this void that you haven't healed yet. It's a really good sign to say, ooh, I have some attachment things. Ooh, I have some expectation. Ooh, I'm feeling it's like all about me. Am I in a victim state? It's a sign to show you that, right? But if somebody wants to change, they will. But if somebody changes for you, if they go to therapy for you, if they do anything for you, it will lead to resentments. And if you do that for another person, well, I'll go to therapy for them. I'll do this for them. I'll do that for them. And things just don't sort of work out. Now, suddenly you're going to go into the victim state of, well, don't they know I did all of this for them? And half the time they don't even know what you did for them. You just assume that you're going to do this and then this is going to happen. Like, you can't, it's just never going to serve your best and highest good. So where do you start? Well, you look and say, where do I feel like I'm giving more and I can't let go of the fact that this person isn't changing or that situation isn't changing? Now we have a space to start working on it. But the more honest you are without judgment, you don't get to judge yourself. You don't get to say, I'm terrible. You don't get to say, what's wrong with me? You don't get to do all of that because it's not going to be productive. That's an unproductive way of speaking to yourself. You look at it and go, oh, this means I'm definitely dealing with some codependency. Oh, I'm definitely dealing with a little bit of an attachment thing. Let me process that. This is where that comes into play. You can also book a session with your girl. I got you. But you really have to do the work on your part. Nobody's going to do it for you. And don't tell everybody you're doing the work and then you're not doing the work, because it's not bothering anybody else. It's only going to affect you. But that's why you got to remember, all that love and attention that you're putting into everybody else, turn that around and put that on you. That's the person that needs the attention, not those people there.